Coming up on this episode of the Grassroots podcast.
On the day when things aren't going your way, if you don't have that overcoming adversity to fall back on, I feel it's really tough.
It's like championship teams create a culture of winning, right? Winners create a culture of winning, and that goes all the way from the GM throughout, the coaches, the teams, even the fans, right? Bring so much energy to a winning organization.
Years previous that I was involved in the team, and I wasn't really emotionally invested in the team, whether it be because I was kind of unsure of my role in the team, or I wasn't being utilised the way I felt I should have been, things like that. It could really play a big part on how invested you get into the team.
I'm Quincy Kennedy, and we are back here in the Fox Den for another Grassroots podcast. Pumped for this episode, guys. We have the full NSA team back in the building. It's been a pretty intense month for all of us, and I think a great way to start this off is kind of do a recap what we've all been up to. So, Dave, how we doing, bud?
I'm doing great.
Yeah, how's it been?
It's been busy, as always.
Back.
But I'm back from New Zealand, and really just getting stuck into NSA work. We're taking the team of rec players overseas to Canada. And we have our roster set now, so we know who we're taking. We've kind of everything's in motion. And I'm pumped, actually, because we're going back to Calgary, Vancouver and Calgary. So that is going to be a trip of a lifetime for these guys. So, I'm pretty jacked in organising that. But it's taken up a lot of time. But it's fun work, man.
That's right. NSA creating opportunities.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, that's
right.
good.
It's gonna be
good to have you back, man.
Thanks,
Absolutely. Awesome. Here with JFK himself.
Yes. How's it going?
Snapchat Phantom. How are we doing? So, what's going on in your world, man? What's new?
Right now, we finished one of our biggest camps that we've had to date. So right now, we're just setting up for the next thing that we have in line. So after the hockey season, we like to set up pretty much a development. What am I looking for, Dave? Development. It is pretty much just a program. It's a development program, pretty much that we take the most elite players within region. So we take the most elite players from the Newcastle region. I completely missed that, but we'll keep going. So we take the top elite players from the Newcastle region, and we'll probably be doing another one in Sydney. And we just want to give these players the best opportunity that they can have to get better. So it's really putting our best foot forward, and is our best product when it comes down to hockey development.
Absolutely. That's great. Matt, in the building.
Good to be back.
Yes, right. Awesome. So what's going on, man? What's new, Matt?
I am high on life right now.
Yeah, oh, that's right.
I finally this year, I got my first home goal for the North Stars team.
Yes.
So I am jacked.
Can we get a chant in there?
First home goal.
I feel like a chant. We'll put that in.
Every other season, it's always been a way that I've scored my goals. So
we've got to check the video.
Yeah, it's not confirmed that it was actually my goal.
Happy Gilmore, that final shot. Everyone's like, ding, 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 ding.
What's the chances we can get that? Can we put that clip in? No, that's not legal. Oh, all right, can't.
Oh yeah,
it wasn't the prettiest.
Too many rules.
Too many rules.
Oh man, automatic light. Awesome.
But, apart from that, our Learn to Play program at the rink is going really well. Yeah. Just making sure that keeps ticking over, and we're starting to get into schools now with a new program. So really hoping to go kind of up the ante with that, and try to get some new kids and stuff involved. So really exciting stuff.
Oh, so good. We do it for the kids. Love the kids.
That program is going. If you ever just want to get pumped about hockey again and go down the rink on a Monday night, the ice is jammed, parents are jacked. That's
going down. Yeah, club music's bumping, disco light.
Yeah.
So you know what? Maybe we should add that. Maybe we should add some music. That would add a little element to it. It would make it a little bit tougher to teach kids when you have that music going on.
JFK on the ones and twos.
Yep.
Actually, I'm really excited too because we just got some goalie equipment donated to us. So it's really exciting. We're trying to get some more goalies, senior and junior, into the game. So
Skaters Network coming up big.
Yeah. Big shout out to Skaters Network.
Thank you, Skaters Network. Thank you.
Awesome. Good. Lots going on in hockey and in lacrosse. But tonight, great topic tonight, guys. The reason why athletes play sports to get to the championship. We've all been there. It's emotional. It's intense. we get in there, we play our hardest, we work our hardest. It's blood, sweat, and tears all the way up until that day, and it's an amazing day. It's an amazing opportunity to get there. Very few of us get there. Very few of us walk away with the ring. But let's talk about that, guys. I guess outside of just playing, what motivates you about getting to the championship?
I think it's the biggest goal on all athletes' minds to try to lift the cup or win that gold. You obviously have little tiny goals for yourself through seasons. Like I just mentioned, getting my goal, like that's always been a big goal for me. But yeah, the biggest one's always the championship game and lifting that cup for sure.
Definitely.
Exactly. I mean, that's what you do. Like, when you're a kid, you're always pretending to make the big play in the big game. No one's ever pretending to make a play in like a normal regular season game. I'm not out there shooting pucks, trying to go top shelf. Or, oh my gosh, he got the second goal of the game and it's in the second period. No, he
hit the crossbar.
Yeah, you're shooting to score the overtime goal, Game 7 for the championship. So that's why you want to play. Granted, with today's society, maybe the problematic light may go on right now, but in today's society, play for fun and play for that participation certificate. But here's the thing: even if you're a kid, if you're 5 years old. Why are you out there? Usually, like, some kids are just out there because mom and dad signed them up. But if you're playing the sport, you're out there to win the game. Like,
absolutely.
You want that trophy. Like, you want that prize. I mean, I just think it's civilization that we've always wanted to be the best at something.
I think as parents kill that for kids. Like, they just want their kid to be happy and feel good, and really they just ruin it for their kids by having certificate for losers. Should not be certificate for losers, just saying, guys.
And just so people know, we don't think they're losers. They just lost the game.
They just lost the game.
Just lost the game.
Which is not winning. But that's none of my business. Awesome. But moving forward with that, guys, like, what is it like preparing for a championship game? So you go through the whole season, you're working hard, you get to the playoffs. I mean, actually, let's stop there first. Let's talk about the playoffs. That's the step before you get to the championship. I know with hockey and a couple other sports, there's a 7-game series. Talk about that, what it's like prepping for that and getting ready.
Well, it's obviously amplified with our league in Australia because it is one game. So it is the game 7. Even the semi-final even the semi-final is the game 7 because it's one and done. So that whole weekend is huge. You play 28 games, whatever it is, but you can have a bad game or a good game. It's a coin flip, really. So you just got to put yourself in the best position. And I think everyone would tell you as an athlete, you try to prepare yourself the same every week. So it is just another game. Obviously, you're not going to sleep as well the night before or on the day. Just because the nerves are going, but you like to think if you just do everything the right way and you stick to the plan, and even if I put my coaching hat on, it's just another game. You're gonna run the same structure and kind of systems and line combinations and things like that. But if you do it the same, you'll win. But I think a big thing is adversity, and I can kind of refer to 2013 when I wasn't playing that year because I had an operation on my knee and I was on the coaching staff, and we lost to the Ice Dogs. May you remember that one? The Ice Dogs, and we were just flat. We never really showed up, and I think part of that was we had a really good year that year, and we didn't overcome a lot of adversity because things came easy, and we earned things to come easy to us because we were so good. But on the day when things aren't going your way, if you don't have that overcoming adversity to fall back on, I feel it's really tough, And when things weren't going, power play wasn't working that day and different things, it was really, as a coaching staff, I remember looking at each other thinking, what do we do?
Yeah, that's right.
Because we hadn't had to adapt a lot during the year. I think, and I'm calling them out here a little bit, but if you look at the Melbourne Ice this year, who knows what goes on in their room and internally, but they have one regulation loss, and it was to the North Stars. But you kind of worry about a team like that as a coach, and even when you're on that team, is because I know in not just national leagues, but in recreational leagues or whatever else, hockey growing up, I found the best teams I've had or teams I've been most confident with is when you just get hot or get momentum at the right time.
Yeah.
And you're not always the top team. You've had to kind of build character and fight and claw to get through things, to get through. And that's, you look at, I think the best example of that at a high level is LA Kings when they won the first of their most recent cups.
Yeah.
They were the last seed, didn't have home ice the whole playoffs, and they just weren't going to lose. Like they were just hot at the right time. Yet you have other teams, Washington last year, they didn't lose back-to-back games all year. Wow. So they never really had that kind of losing streak or that thing they had to get out of. The first championship I won at a decent level was growing up playing hockey in Melbourne, and we lost our first it was 5 or 6 games, and then we won a streak of like 15 in a row, and nothing was going to stop us. So, going back to preparation, you want to prepare the same and things like that. But I think if you can have something to draw on, like some adversity you've overcome, if you have that and you're preparing the same, then you go in with that mindset that we're just not going to lose.
There's so many bangers there. I kind of want to go back. There's so many good things you said, and I had to write down some things, so it wouldn't slip my mind. One thing that you talked about was adversity and having adversity throughout the season, and how that kind of like gives you that slight edge, if you will. Yeah. And I saw this season, actually, I believe it was the Tar Heels lacrosse team made the championship, and the head coach's son had died like the week before. And they passed away, and they went out there with so much heart, and they had to go over that adversity. Yeah. Can you just elaborate on that? Maybe one of you guys, just more about that adversity, and maybe a situation where you guys had that adversity, and how much it really does play a factor in games.
Without adversity, you don't have the grit, because no matter what in a game, you're going to have the ups and downs of the game. And if you have adversity outside of that, if you can overcome that, well, then that's only going to show you what you can do. It shows you your potential. When you're faced with a situation that looks grim, that I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it, and you make it through, well, then you realize you have more within yourself than what you did beforehand. That's why adversity is so huge. So every team faces adversity, but the ones that keep moving forward are the ones that can get through that adversity, because they get through it, they realize what's more inside of them, and then they go on to the next thing. Compared to a team that, for whatever reason, if you won a game and it was tough, but then you've won a game and you kind of just slip through the cracks. For some teams, they can slip through the cracks and look good. Like it's not that they're a bad team, but they're just a solid team. They're above average team. But then once they hit that adversity and they can't go through it, and if they hit that adversity too late in the season, it could be the end. And like you look at teams like, okay, obviously North Carolina Panthers, they went through the whole season destroying teams, but then they got to the finals and like they didn't win that big game. Why? And it's not to take away anything from who they were as a team, as an organization, because obviously their habits were in the right place. They did the right things all year round. But how can you get that far and not win the big game? You know what I mean?
There's a quote out there. I'm not, I can't tell you who it's by, but it's very obvious. But and everyone has a plan until you get punched in the face, and it's really true. Like, so true. If you look at it like I'm guessing a boxer or something said that, but if you could just go one punch KO guys in a boxing career, but until you've taken punches and you know what you can take, you know that you can be on the bottom and claw your way back, until you know what you can take and overcome, then in that final, if you give up a goal, you're kind of like, we haven't been behind all year. What do we do now? Now you're gripping it a little tight and things like that. But I think as a coach, as a coaching staff, you need to, if that's not happening for you, and as I said, teams that don't go through adversity that are very good have earned that. They're usually very good. They just, there's no adversity for them. Adversity doesn't find them because they're just outscoring teams. They might lose a key player, but another guy is that good that he'll carry the mail. But a good coach will subtly just give the group adversity. Maybe take someone out of the lineup and keep them honest or practice them very hard.
And that's a big thing, because you can have adversity on and off the field or on and off the ice.
Yeah.
I remember one of the teams I played for, a championship team with the St. Louis Bandits. On the ice, we were a very successful team. I mean, there wouldn't be a game where coach would have to yell at us and things like that, but we had adversity off the ice. And Kelly Chase told you the story when we were in Quebec about we had, I think we call them the Fantastic Four. We had 4 young guys, 4 rookies on the team that decided to that they would have a fun night out, disturb their housing parents that
young
night.
Young
guys, and they had kids. Youngsters. So lo and behold, without getting into much detail, They had some friends over that night, but they didn't shut the door all the way. However, the door, whenever it opens and closes, makes a noise upstairs. So the door was kind of like waving in and out, making noise upstairs, disturbing the kids. So they couldn't get any sleep. So these guys, they're thinking they're in the basement, no one knows, blah, blah, blah. They wake up to the head coach, John Cooper, Tampa Bay Lightning now, and Kelly Chase standing over the top of them. And they're like, oh my gosh, like that's the worst feeling. But however, when coach had to like I guess lay down the law with the team, he didn't lay it on those players, the young guys. He laid it down on the seniors. And he said, this is your team. Get these guys in line. And that's what ever since then, we snapped, we took control of the team. So that was a way of we faced that adversity, and from everything on, the leaders led, everyone went along, and we were all on that same path. But speaking of adversity, and we talked about the 2013 championship, or 2013, where we were in the finals, made it to the final game, lost to the Ice Dogs. Matt, I guess, show us the difference between 2013 compared to 2015. How did you feel on the ice? And do you feel that by losing in 2013 that we were able to win in 2015?
I think it's kind of more important to look at the 2014 year where we didn't make the playoffs. I think that kind of was the biggest kick to our team. That's never happened. It had never happened before to the North Stars organization until that time. Obviously we bounced back in a big way the following year to come back and win the championship, to prove everyone that we could do it. But 2013, that hurt, obviously. And it's happened to me personally 6 times with the North Stars over my career so far.
Championship game or
championship game? Yeah.
Wow, bridesmaid.
Do you remember that year though, Matty? Do you remember feeling that? And again, you were playing. Obviously, I was on the staff, but I just didn't feel like we had anything to resort to. When it wasn't going right, did you feel that as a player? You just kind of had one way to play.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest problems we've had historically is we were always focusing so much on the game before it and treating the semi like it was the final. And so we're all so mentally prepared to get into the final. And I think a lot of guys, including myself at times, would just check out a little bit in the final game. So we're like, oh, okay, we've made it now. Let's just see what happens, rather than focusing entirely on that and just treating the semi as another game. Whereas last year we treated the semi just like another game, and the final was the big show. That's why it was successful.
Oh, there's so many nuggets here, guys. If you're driving or you're working out and you're listening to this, I know you guys are just pumped up where you guys are getting so much good nuggets, so much good content. I do want to go back to a very valuable point that both, actually all 3 of you guys made at different times. You guys said different things. But one thing is the experience of being in a championship and how that plays a role. You talked about the Panthers and how they couldn't pull through. Well, people were saying the same thing about Curry, his team against LeBron, and the same thing happened with Peyton in the Super Bowl. Some of the best Super Bowl games with Peyton Manning in the clutch, right? Talk to us about what experience of being in championship really does, and being in a championship year after year, or not being in a championship and going against a team that has been there year after year, and the difference in mentality, and how come people like Peyton Manning win year after year after year, and teams that went undefeated all year, they don't close the deal.
There's that X factor, and that X factor goes back. I know Wayne Gretzky has a story when the Oilers, great team, went up against the Islanders. And so I don't know the complete story. There's going to be some gurus out there that are listening. How do you don't know? How don't you know this? However, pretty much the Oilers, Wayne Gretzky's team, went against the Islanders. Islanders won the series. They won the Stanley Cup. So Gretzky,
that was back when they were winning.
Yeah, they were winning. They had the winning organization. They knew what it took to win a championship. So Gretzky, he figures he would go over there, maybe shake hands, or just get a peek of what the winning team's doing, because he wants to be there.
It was actually, I'm going to stop.
Oh, you got it? You got it? Okay. Hey, now he knows the story.
Books. But it was, they were sitting there in their locker room, and it was just silent down the hall, and they couldn't hear cheering or anything like that. And so obviously they lost. They were out of there pretty quick. And they walked past the locker room, and it was, the guys were, they were happy, but they weren't celebrating. They were just sitting against the wall, with bags of ice all over them because they were just battered and bruised and done. And Gretzky talks about that in his book, is when he just remembers looking at that and thinking, okay, we're fine. Like, we're walking out of there unscathed, you know, and he remembers just thinking that's what it takes to win a championship.
Yeah,
and learn his lesson from there.
And that's why you see the Peyton Mannings. That's why you see the Tom Brady's. That's why you see the Pat Kanes, the Jonathan Tays, and things like that. When you were mentioning the LA Kings and that team that won it, I remember the Blackhawks when they won it. I think they're a year ago. They skimmed into the playoffs. I think they barely got that last spot. Pat Kane was hurt for that last quarter of the season. He came back, and then they were just on fire. They were something. I mean, it goes back to adversity, but winning teams and winning organizations. The reason why people hire those type of people, because they know what it takes to win. And people see that all the time. Like, there is that X factor. You can be a great player, and you can, be very skilled. You can be very talented. You can bring the best. You've seen it, New York Rangers. They've had a hockey budget where they've had almost all-star teams, but yet they couldn't get the cup back there.
Yeah, right.
I think it comes, and again, the feeling of winning, to me, was it justifies everything I thought before that. Like, again, winning at minor levels, but then winning a national championship, it really, justified, okay, this is how you win. Because before that, it was just my opinion. It kind of puts some fact to it. This is how things are done. And I think when you're talking about the little things of those players that have an edge, I think that is what things that young people may discount. And, playing in New Zealand this year, we have a very young team, and they got a lot to learn. And they're not bad people. They're great kids, but they got a lot to learn. And the things they have to learn is what some older guys know and what championship winning players know. And it's just little things that when you're trying to teach players, they might look at that and think, why is that important? Like being on time, still practicing when you're not feeling great, but having that professional kind of front that I'm fine.
Kind of like the Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off.
Yeah, absolutely. But just being a pro and all those little things, I say being on time, I think that's a big thing for everything you do with the team and just being around the team. Like a championship winning team, which we had with the North Stars in 2015, guys weren't late. You don't have to tell them this time, or you just tell one guy and everyone knows that's the time, everyone's there ready to go. Whereas a young team, inexperienced team that are very skilled, probably skilled enough to win a championship, you're always having to tell them, and they just don't get it. And that's just one factor, but it's all those little things that once you've won a championship, you know what it takes. And it's not just being really good at hockey. It's probably more about those habits and just being excellent at everything off the ice and doing it like a pro. And they're things that no one's going to say, hey, good job for being on time. It's just things that you have to make one of your habits. And when you have a team of guys like that, you're going to beat teams that are more skilled.
Absolutely. When I think about this legendary teams, I think about the late 90s Detroit, right? 97, 98, back to back, and they come back a couple years later and win a couple more.
Yep.
Right? What a dynamic team. Like that Fedorov, Shanahan, Yzerman, Osgood. Yeah. They had an amazing team, but it wasn't just the players. Like, they played as a unit, and it was really good.
I actually heard, don't quote me on it because it's what I heard. But
I'm more than willing to sup in if I.
that in that era, that Detroit actually didn't hire a strength and conditioning coach. It was up to the players. And when you have, like Lidstrom, Yzerman leading by example there, the younger guys in that team, they look at the leaders, and that's what they're doing, and they take care of themselves. Whereas a younger team, you're going to have to employ a guy to get these guys in shape and making sure they're doing their lifts and treating their body right. So that's the difference. Champions don't need to be told. They just know what needs to be done and do it.
Absolutely.
Looking for no recognition.
Randomly, do you see a team make it to the championship and win, or even make it to the championship and only win once, or goes there and you never hear about them again? It's like championship teams create a culture of winning, right? Winners create a culture of winning, and that goes all the way from the GM throughout, the coaches, the teams, even the fans, right? Bring so much energy to a winning organization. So all of you guys had that experience of being in championships and being a part of a winning team and winning culture. Talk to everybody about that. I guess, what was your experience with that culture? How did you guys operate in it? And what would you guys say to someone looking to be in that place?
You want to? Matt, you want a gold medal? You have a gold medal under your belt.
Yeah, it's. I guess for me, comes down to emotions. I know that years previous that I was involved in the team, and I wasn't really emotionally invested in the team, whether it be because I was kind of unsure of my role in the team, or I wasn't being utilized the way I felt I should have been, things like that. It could really play a big part on how invested you get into the team and how hard you want to play on the ice. But I definitely think it does come down to all those things you mentioned, like the fans. Like last year, it just felt from game one, it just felt like we were a winning team. The fans were just amazing. They were so loud, so vocal. All of our events throughout the year were packed out, and you could just feel the love and support the whole way through. And that came out in the dressing room as well. All the boys wanted to play for each other. Everyone would have taken a bullet for each other that year. And so, yeah, it's all those little things that added up to just knowing the whole time that we're just going to win.
See, you said a word there that like really resonates with me, and that's roles. And so many times players, like, it's so important that you know your role, you know why you're on your team, and you know that you can do that better than anyone else. Whether you're a grinder, whether you are a skilled player, whether you're a stay-at-home defenseman, or maybe you're an offensive defenseman. And the strongest teams that I've played on, it's not because of the skill or talent. The strongest teams I played on is because of that same vision, that same goal, and no one cared who got the recognition. I mean, like, I've played with now guys who are in the NHL and things like that, or who have had NHL careers or pro careers. And even at that, like I was saying, it goes back to that common goal, and no one cares who gets the recognition. No one cares if, and everyone's willing to sacrifice. You look like at a player like Pavel Datsyuk, okay, maybe one of the most offensively talented guys in the NHL. You will see him forechecking, back-checking. You see him play all parts of the game. He's not above the game. He's not above the team because he puts the team above him, like before himself. And I've been on teams where talented forwards, and where they feel like, well, I'm a talented forward, I'm a goal scorer, I don't back-check. See, that's the thing. Once you have that, and there's nothing wrong with having an ego, but there's a wrong type of ego where it's toxic to the team. And whenever you have those toxic players, it does take away from the team, because even it puts the coach in a tough situation. So then even the coach is like, do I play this kid or do I not play this kid? Do I put the team first or am I not putting the team first? Because technically the coach can make that excuse for himself that he's putting the team first by still playing this guy because he's very offensive and he can help the team win. But at the same time, that's just the short game. That's playing checkers. And if the coach is really thinking about the long-term success of the team for that season, he nips it in the bud. And like, okay, I'll use an example once again. John Cooper with the St. Louis Bandits, and we had Pat Maroon, who I think tied or went beyond Doug Wade's record in the North American Hockey League for points in a season. Like, kid was dynamic. Had a hat trick in the first period of the championship game. You know what I mean? So, like, he could turn it on and he could light it up. But even at that sense, he was getting to the big head. He had the big head and everything like that. And, like, he plays for the Oilers now. But John Cooper had to make that decision to snap him back in place. And the thing about it, like, even as players, we're like, oh, like, coach, are you sure you want to sit him? I'm sure we won the game or something like that. But he had to send that signal that there was no one player above the team. So when you talk about roles, definitely, like, coach, give your players roles. Make sure each and every player knows their role on the team, whether it's a big role or a small role. And the thing about it, make sure that other people are congratulating them within that. If you see whatever, the grinder who's not going to get the goal scorers throw that big hit, teammates get behind them. And the successful teams, they do get behind that. They want to see that player do well.
I think successful teams are really measured by those smaller roles. Like, I think when it comes to and especially like in the NHL when you're playing so many games, when it comes to the later part of the season, the guys that have those small roles are actually more valuable. And maybe not on the ice all the time, but they're the guys that keep the higher end guys in check. And not always fit verbally, or sometimes it's just the higher end guys need someone to look at and being like, that guy's working his bag off at practice, you know, and why? Like, and they almost feel bad or it's hard to explain, but you just need that in a successful team, not even a championship team, but you just need that just to remind guys, if that guy plays 2 minutes in height or whatever it is, and he's working, like, I've got to put in here. I think those players, those people are so valuable. And I think when teams acquire guys like that, sometimes fans look and think like, really? But so much goes on in a dressing room or on trips or just around the team, that fans will never know.
Yeah.
And sometimes players couldn't even describe, but there's just, they call them glue guys or things like that. And sometimes the guys are just really quiet, but I think those guys are so valuable.
And I really hope that the young player that's listening to this right now, that maybe you're in one of those roles where you're not the star, you're not the flashy player. And if you're listening, take your role seriously and eat it up. I mean, because your team needs you to do that. Everyone needs you to be there and to fulfill that role. So don't downplay it. It's just as big of a part of the pie as everything else is.
And that's the thing. Like, nothing is, as a hockey player, nothing should be beneath you. Like, if you're a fourth line guy or a 5-6 defenseman, and you think, well, I can't get to the top level because I need to be a top pair guy or a first line forward, well, just be the best 5-6 defenseman that there is. And there's guys that have long NHL careers by being the best fourth liner there is. And they're not looked at to score goals, but there's no one better at that job. So if you're playing now minor hockey or whatever and thinking, I don't play a lot or whatever, well then look at what you do and just do that better than anyone else. Just embrace it.
So good, man.
If they buy in, everyone's going to buy in.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Because it built, it's toxic. When you see someone sitting on the bench, or when you see that player that gets sad or whatever and they start pouting, it's absolutely
that sets the
worst thing. That sets the tone. And once again, we're talking to the player. We're talking to the player right now. Don't be that player. No coach likes it. No teammate likes it. You make it awkward. Don't do it. Don't pout.
Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy.
And I can tell you, as a coach, they're the guys you lose on the bench. The guy who's not getting on and goes and sits at the end or pouts, you don't want him on the ice.
Definitely.
The guy that's up and is in your peripheral vision and that you're not using a lot, but he's up and he keeps moving up toward the gate and you're having to move him back down, that's a guy you end up putting out there. Just because, but the guy that it's like you walk into a retail store and there's a guy just leaning against the wall. Well, you're not going to go to him for help. If there's a guy's stocking the shoes or whatever, you're going to go to him because he's going to look after you for sure.
Absolutely.
Having said that, just quickly, if you're out there and you don't know your role, talk to your coach. Find out what your role is. I wish I'd done that when I'd started with the team because it took me a few years to understand what my role was, and I just wish I'd spoken up sooner and found out what my involvement was so I could buy in and be one of those guys.
And see, that's huge, and there's a right and wrong way to do that. There's a way of going into asking your coach for a meeting, going into the locker room or going into his room and being like, Coach, I should be on the ice. I should be on the power play. I should be getting more time. Or there's a way of, Coach, I want to help the team as best as I can. How do I do that? If you go to a coach and say that, and for whatever reason they get upset, you're playing for the wrong coach. I don't think there's any coach in the world that would get upset at a player for coming in there, being professional, even if you're 10 years old. Just being, hey, coach, I want to do the best I can for my teammates. How can I do that? They'll tell you right then and there.
Absolutely. I think we got a bit off. Well, people might think we got a bit off track there. But
that's really good stuff.
That's what it is. When you're talking about winning championships and the feelings and all that, it's all that coming together. And that's what, as a role player, or you're happy for everyone. You're I think when we won in 2015, I was at the time more happy for other guys on the team than I was for myself, really. And it's because of that. People embracing their roles, just all the little things that went on during the year.
Definitely. Man, so many good nuggets. Just mind blown. I know whoever's listening to this, you got so much out of that. If you're a coach, I know you got a lot out of that.
Yeah.
If you're a player, if you're parents, being able to support your kids, I know whoever's listening to got a lot out of that. But what I really like about that conversation that we just went into is a lot of that is just life lessons that we can take outside of the sport arena. Being a leader, right? Being a good team player and applying that to everyday life. And one story that I remember that's dear to me because it was massive for me and I was involved in it. And it has a lot to do with character and being a team player and knowing your role. My latter years of senior high school, Friday night football, it's the best year. Like you
Friday
get
night
there,
lights.
you get there, you're so pumped. In preseason, you're working hard and you're doing whatever it takes. And I remember it was my junior year, and actually, yeah, it's ridiculous. It was my junior year, and I was doing really good, and I was in the place to be starting my senior year. And all throughout, my career football, I always started both ways. Was always that player, and I was going like easily could have started both ways my senior year. Got to my senior year, we're preseason, we're doing a scrimmage, and I got called offsides like 3 times in a row. And I'm clearly looking at the ball. I'm not offsides. And the ref called me offside 3 times. Like, you think after the first or second time, I would obviously get back far enough, right? But he called me 3 times for whatever the reason was. And my coach threw me off, said, yep, get off, you're done. And it was just a scrimmage. I could just took it like, yep, whatever it is. But I threw a massive fit, embarrassed our team, chucked my helmet off, and just embarrassed the team, embarrassed myself, and ended up not playing the rest of my senior year. And I was a quality player. I could have did it. And I didn't get the player time I deserved as an athlete because of the way I conducted myself. I wasn't thinking about the team. I wasn't thinking about my character and what that looked like for the greater team. And it really matters. It really matters. So I think it's important.
Reflecting back on that, if you're a coach, I mean, I've dealt with good players, Dave, you have, and we're athletes. I mean, if you see a good loser, I mean, like, they're a loser. Like, you shouldn't be a good loser. Granted, you should carry yourself in a professional manner. Looking back, do you wish that coach would have maybe taken the time, set you aside, hey, Q, this is the reason why you're sitting, and you know what, next time that happens, da-da-da-da-da? Yep. Or do you look back at that and think that you deserve to not get playing time for the rest of the year?
No, definitely. So I'm not going to make an excuse for my actions. Like, my actions, and I deserve to sit, maybe even sit the first couple games. But no, definitely, the way the coach handled it was awful. I did apologize to the team. In front of all the coaches, all the players, did my apologies. But no matter how hard I worked at practice, no matter how early I showed up, because at that point I was fighting to get back in the roster. He didn't give me a second look the whole season. And I mean, for coaches listening, like, that's awful. That's awful. Like, you just kill a kid's dream like that. Like, we make mistakes, But like, I didn't do anything awful. I just blew my temper. But he didn't give me a second look the rest of the season. And again, my mistake, my actions. But
I think it's a big tie into championship games, because you're right, John. Like, there's no, you can't be happy with losing, but I think there's a time and a place. And I think if as a coach and a player, more so as a coach, if you're going to blow up or make a scene, you always have to be doing that for a reason, and it needs to have a positive effect on a team. And I've seen coaches get kicked out, and there's a bit of a wow factor, like, oh wow, man, we've got to pull our socks up here. But you think about a championship game, or especially Game 7 or a 1-game championship game, you really need to find a way as a coach and as an athlete to be unflappable. And I think, look at a goaltender, for example. You're playing that game, and a soft one goes in, and all of a sudden they're pissed off or blaming the D or blowing up. Yeah, the opposition looks at that, and you've got those guys.
Every team. You see the goalie blow up, you're like, we got it. We got it.
You need, as an athlete and a coach, you need to find a way to be a pro. And and you see in the NHL too, a D-man throws a pizza up in the middle, turnover, they score. Yeah, occasionally you might see the guy break his stick or whatever, but I've also been at games where, if you didn't see the play, you'd look at the guy and you'd have no idea that he just threw a pizza up in the middle and got scored on. You need to be able to reset and not let it get to you, and not show that it's getting to you. Because if you're playing a team and you get a goal on them, but nothing's changed, you just, okay, they have a fire, they have a desire to win this game, nothing's going to set them back. But when you see it, body
language.
Body language
it can turn around so quick. Especially in hockey, it's a fast game. Yeah. Mistakes are going to happen. Like, they're going to happen. Like, you practice perfection. We always talk about perfection. Hockey, football, baseball, lacrosse, any sport you play, mistakes are going to happen. And like you said, it's how you deal with them and how you handle them.
Absolutely. Well, that's a lot. We got to continue to move forward. I do want everyone just to get the opportunity, because there's a lot of little kids, or not little kids, but younger athletes listening to this. And before we move into your guys' league and going into what the championship looks like going into this season, and before we wrap it up, I just want everyone just to give a quick 30-second blurb to that young athlete who's listening and their dreams, aspirations to make it to the championship. What's that 30-second nugget you have for them? Go ahead, Dave.
Just habits. Make sure you're doing everything to an excellent level. and the little details and making excellence a habit, doing those little things just add on top of each other so that you're always preparing for that championship game. So then when it comes, it's just another game. You have the habits and you have what it takes to execute.
Definitely.
Yeah.
JFK?
Well, since Dave took what I was going to say, habits, I guess I'll just keep going into that. And when we say habits, that's being the first one on the field and being the last one off. That is always listening and being tentative. That is taking care of your body off the field or off the ice. It's all those little things, like you said, habits. It's attention to details. I love that picture. It says the difference between winning and losing. And you have one person's foot that's close to the line and one person's foot that's going over the line. You want to get into those habits that you exceed the expectation. Don't get into habits of just trying to do enough. Make it a habit to always go through the line. And I promise you, if you don't take shortcuts, you're going to see more success in your game.
Absolutely.
To bounce off that, I guess, just be a leader. You don't have to be the captain, assistant captain, anything like that. Just carry yourself with pride, passion, all that stuff, and be a leader on the field, on the ice, and off the ice, and good things will happen.
Absolutely. Just what you said. It's just the saying, what you do speaks so loudly that what you say I can't hear. It's all about what you're doing out there. It's all about your actions. You can say you're doing this or that, but when you're on the field, you know if you worked on the off season, you know how you conduct yourself. So it's just evident. But moving forward, guys, the league, we're getting to that crunch time, right?
Yes, it is.
Let's talk about it.
So
what's going on?
It's starting to narrow down. Pretty much, we're starting to see what the finals could look like. I don't think mathematically, one of the only teams to take a spot right now is Melbourne, Melbourne Ice. But at the same time, Melbourne Ice to take a spot for the AIHL Finals.
Oh, to lock it in?
To lock it
they're
in.
They're in.
Mathematically, they're in. So you have teams that are fighting for the 2, 3, 4 spot. That 4th spot is up for grabs for anyone. Yeah. So even the second place team could go down to 4th place. Yeah. But just going into that, we've been there. It's exciting. And the thing about it, once you get in, you fight the whole season, but once you get in, anything can happen. It's a single game elimination format. So you could be the 4th place team and still take it. You could be 1st place and take it. Yeah. We found out last year, we took the minor premiership, and we had our backs against the wall. We found ourselves down,
3-0 rip,
3-0 in the first period. So anything can happen. But I think it's a lot of excitement around it.
Yeah, that's right.
Once again, that's why we play. You play for the championship. And that's why you play. You can't just look at a team on paper and calculate this team's going to be the best. Each year is different, and each team has to prove themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we talked about adversity earlier on. I guess this year has been huge in that for us. We haven't won every game. We haven't looked like we were going to win every game. We've lost some games we shouldn't have. We've won games that we didn't think we were going to win. So, we've had it all this year. And I think it was great that we were able to beat Melbourne at home too this year to kind of plant that seed of doubt in their mind, because I know they're oozing confidence right now. But as Johnny said, anything can happen. You just got to make that top 4.
Smack them out. Dave, you're actually in New Zealand, so you're back now. So what does that look like for you? If you're playing New Zealand, will you be here playing in the playoffs, and how does that work?
Yeah, back now. Got some games in, so I'll be there for the playoffs. New Zealand. Fantastic experience. On the ice, things didn't go great for us, so no playoffs for the Thunder, but no, back on board with the North Stars, and things are good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, feeling really good.
That's great. Well, that's the season, right? We're wrapping up, getting ready to get into the playoffs and get into the championship. So I think that wraps it up for us tonight, boys. I think that was a pretty good show.
Yeah, absolutely.
I loved it. Really good content. Power hitters, right? Mind blown. Everyone listening, driving off the road, or
stay on the road.
Don't listen to podcasts while driving. Awesome. Well, that is the podcast today, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Stick tuned to after this and check out how you can connect with us on social media and be a part of the team. Thanks for tuning into this week's episode. If you like what you heard, subscribe to us on YouTube or iTunes. We want to hear your opinion on this week's topic, so let us know on our Twitter poll at Grassroots_AU. Do you approach the championship game as any other game, or do you approach it with a bit more heart and passion? Don't forget to check out our other social media platforms, Grassroots_sports on Instagram and Grassroots Sports on Facebook. Head over to grassroots-sports.com.au and sign up to the Grassroots Sport newsletter for exclusive content and competitions. Enjoy your week, and we'll see you next time on the Grassroots Podcast.